one bad decision, one bad moment away from having a deadly mistake on your hands. Make sure that your gun goes in a safe or is in a safe place immediately. Hi everyone, Amara Barnes here with WGOAA. Today we're talking about how to not be a lazy gun owner. And there's a specific way that I want to address this, and that has to do with being a mom or having a changing situation within your household. So I'm a part-time stepmom to our two boys, which are almost 10 and 11 years old, and we have them 50% of the time. And so 50% of the time, I don't have children in my home. And the other 50% of the time, it's almost always just my husband and I. We don't have people over that often. And if we do, then, it's like a special occasion, right? And so, half the time, I feel very comfortable with my firearm being just near me. I know where it is. I know the status of it. My husband and I are in great communication with our firearms. We have a system that works for us. But as soon as kids are in the house, it's a whole nother ball game, right? I might not be comfortable with my gun in the place that it was when they were not at our house. I'll explain what I mean. So oftentimes I'll carry in a concealed carry bag. I know, sue me, it's terrible. But the thing is, it just is what works for me a lot of the time. And so I have to do that. And I have found a bag that works pretty well. But either way, I don't love it. It's just what it is. And so when I come home, it's very easy for me to just set my bag down while I bring groceries in, while I put things away, while I get comfortable, whatever. And then eventually, I'll make my way up to where I would normally store a gun. Okay, and that works okay when it's just my husband and I. I know where it is. He knows where it is. He knows it's loaded. I know it's loaded, okay, or not. And so handling it in that way, in such a casual, with such a casual attitude, works when we don't have children at home. But the problem arises when my kids come home half of the time, and I cannot just set my bag down and walk away. They're probably not going to go through it. They've never done that before, but there's a first time for everything. They also don't know that I keep my gun in my purse, so that's another thing that, is a layer of protection. But again, they're young kids. They are 10 and 11-year-old boys, right? And at some point, I don't know about all the men who might be watching this, but when you were a little boy, did you ever steal out of your mom's purse? Did you ever go looking for something and maybe found something you wish you hadn't? So there's a hazard there, and it's very important that the routine is set to such that when I get home, my gun goes in a safe immediately. There's no downtime. I don't set my purse down and walk away. The gun needs to stay with you if you're going to carry in a bag, period, all the time. You cannot leave it away from you. You are responsible for everything bad that can happen with that gun once it leaves your hands, right? It's important that we do not become casual, lazy gun owners. And, some people, they're like, oh, well, I only have one safe and I keep it next to my bed. You know what? That's a bad system. You need to not do that. You need to have another safe. And you might say this is too expensive, but how expensive is it going to be when you have a freaking accident? And so how many safes do you need in your house to be a safe gun owner? That really depends on your house, right? So if you live in a Rambler, let's say, and you have your bedroom that's really close to the kitchen and you can just keep your safe in there and you just own the one gun and it's 10 steps away from your front door, that could work just fine for you. You might just need one. But in my case, my bedroom is upstairs. It's a 2-story. It's kind of a hike. I won't say it's a hike. It's a ways from our front door. It's not like I can just walk 2 steps and then put my gun away, right? So I actually have to make a special trip to the bedroom if I'm going to only just have one safe there. That's just not realistic. I know myself, and I am lazy, okay? And so in order for me to be a safe and responsible gun owner, I need more than one safe. And so for me, what I need is a safe that is in the kitchen, since that's the first place that I walk into whenever I come home. It needs to hold at least 2 firearms, one for my husband and one for myself. Both handguns need to fit into that safe, or we have 2, but that seems excessive. But it needs to be able to hold those, plus maybe a couple extra magazines. Whatever suits you the most is what you need to have right away. You need to have access to that as soon as you walk in the door. Okay. If you have extra firearms that you own, then those always need to go in a safe. If you own high-powered rifles and all you have is a trigger lock, I encourage you to get an actual safe. Get one that costs some money. You need to invest in this, or you'll find yourself investing in something that you wish you never had to. I won't tell you how many safes we have in our house. I feel like that's privileged information. However, I will say that you can never have too many, especially if you plan on buying more than one firearm. So where you place them in your house and the number you have in your house, it's both important. Okay, the other thing is, if you take your firearm with you in the car, you must have some kind of locking safe within your vehicle. What if you can't take it in with you, right? What if you need to walk into a gun-free zone? Like some people say, oh, I'm just going to do it anyway. Well, okay. But you may find that at some point it doesn't make sense for you to take your firearm with you. What if you go to the beach, right? Did you carry a safe with you to the beach? You're going to go swimming with your gun? So it's best to have your bases covered so that anytime that you need to be away from your firearm, if that should ever arise, you need to be able to be prepared for that and not just take a risk like, oh shit, I didn't prepare myself. Now I just got to stick it in a glove box and I don't have a key. Like, that's just irresponsible, right? You need to have a place to put it that is safe, that no one can access it. The safe then needs to connect to a part of your vehicle so that, the casual thief can't just rip it right out, right? And they make special safes for that. You're pretty much unlimited resources in that department. And honestly, the little guys, the little safes that'll just connect to your seat and then you just tuck it underneath, they're not very expensive. It's worth the investment. Do that. So anyways, don't be a lazy gun owner. Buy a whole bunch of safes and pay attention to what's going on around you. Seriously, it is one bad decision, one bad moment away from having a deadly mistake on your hands. Make sure that your gun goes in a safe or is in a safe place immediately the moment you walk in the door. And understand that my solution for keeping my firearms safe might not be your solution, and that's totally okay. But the most important thing is that we take responsibility for the risk that we are taking if we don't secure our firearms immediately when we are at home. And so anytime that you set that firearm down, it needs to be locked up. Which is also why we learned the rules for firearm safety, right? So, you're going to handle your firearm the same unloaded as you are with it loaded, so that you never make a mistake when it is loaded. You have that muscle memory where you know exactly how you're going to handle that gun no matter what. And that way you just avoid mistakes entirely. Same thing goes with making sure that it's muscle memory as soon as you walk in the door. You cannot just set your gun down. You cannot take it out of the holster because you're uncomfortable and put it down on the counter. It has to go into a safe. It has to go someplace that is out of sight and safe. Another thing that I used to do, which I now realize was super ignorant and unsafe of me as a gun owner, is that when my husband would go on a trip, I would not keep my gun in the safe. I would keep it on the table next to my bed. And I used to think, well, that'll just be so much faster. I can just reach over and grab it if I need to. I know exactly where it is. And that may be sort of true, except for the fact that I'm actually really disoriented when I wake up. And I especially think I will be that way if I have an intruder in my home, right? And so just the other night, well, it was a while ago now, but I was looking for my water. I was looking for something else on the table and forgot that my gun was out there. And, nothing bad happened, but I realized that my hand was on my gun, but it was a split second later that I was like, that's my gun, instead of that's what I was looking for. And I realized that was not a safe place to have my gun, even though I didn't need it at the time and, nothing bad actually happened. You cannot keep your gun just next to your bed. It's way too easy to accidentally get your finger in the trigger within the trigger guard. It's way too easy for, if you do have an intruder and they can sneak up on you, it's way too easy for them to just come and take your gun from you, right? You wouldn't even need to wake up and your gun would be gone. So all to say, don't be a lazy gun owner. Be responsible with your firearms and establish a routine that you can repeat over and over and over so you have that muscle memory every time you come home so that everyone stays safe. I hope this is helpful. Stay armed.